So we can go ahead and, okay, it's 7:30, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. So the first item on the agenda is a motion to accept the agenda.
I so move to accept. the
Joe,
agenda.
second, Jerry,
Sure.
all in favor?
Aye.
The second is to accept the minutes. Thank you, Sean, for your usual incredible.
So move to approve the minutes. I second it.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, and then the third item is to accept the treasurer's report. Thank you, Joe. For your usual, yes.
I'll move.
Sean, okay. Hey, Margaret. Jerry, second. Okay, we're getting through the meeting is called, so now moving the minutes. And there's Dennis. Minutes are, the agenda is accepted, the minutes are approved, and the treasurer's report. All in favor?
Aye.
The treasurer's report. Okay. Hey, Dennis.
Oh, then.
Hi.
You again. Me again. Yep, sorry.
So what we've done today, we have a few folks that are joining us by Zoom. We have Darren Skelly, who is a candidate, Linda McCann. Darren, you are an at-large candidate, and Linda, you are the apartment owners, correct?
Correct.
Linda, by the way. And I don't see any other folks on that are candidates besides the ones that are here in the room, right? Yeah, okay. So what we're gonna do is, I was explaining, we're gonna literally do a roundtable. So I'm gonna start, well, I will start, and then we're gonna go counterclockwise around the room here, and then we will move to the folks that are on Zoom. Do you all agree with doing that? What I would like to do is really get a sense individually of when you move, how long you've been in Reston, what got you interested in community service, and if you're a member, if you're running for an RA seat, I would like to just get a perspective of your sense of Reston Association and what your perspective is in terms of what you plan on bringing to RA should you be elected. And then the same thing with the Reston, the RCA, Reston Citizens Association board members. Same thing. Talk about how long you've been in Reston, what got you interested in serving on the RCA board, and how you see things with the future of RCA, and maybe even talk about how we might be able to collaborate with the RA going forward. So my name is Lynn Molston. I'll kick it off. Silence your phones. I've been in Reston for 38 years now, and I was not actively involved in community service until 2015. And the thing that got me involved and upset enough to take action was the loss of the Tall Oaks Village Center. It was when I think it was JDG. Oh, Michelle is here. Yay. You're going to have to pick up the rules. So we're doing a roundtable. And we are recording this meeting so that we'll be able to post this to the RCA website. So the thing that got me involved was in 2015. And I live in the Tall Oaks, Lake Ann district. And when I saw that we were at risk of losing Tall Oaks as a village center, they wanted to convert it to residential. They got their way. Thank you, Mark Looney. That's what got me involved. I submitted a candidate nomination form to RCA. I think Sridhar was president at the time. And I've been serving on the RCA board ever since. And I think that we have a lot of opportunities to find ways to collaborate better with Reston Association. And I'm looking forward to, seeing how we can, work that out going forward. One of the, I'm just going to say as an aside, I do serve also on the Reston Planning and Zoning Committee, because I found that by the time we learn about things, it's a little too late. It's already been approved. So I thought, got to figure out where you can start to impact things. So I'm going to turn it over to Margaret, if that's okay.
I have a choice, Glenn. Did you make the statement you wanted to make? It was on the email. Did people read the agenda?
Yes, so just full disclosure, I did send an email to everyone, letting everyone know that Margaret is the daughter of Connie Hartke, who is a director on the RCA board. So,
But it has no bearing
Welcome.
on this at all.
right.
So I am Margaret Perry. I have actually lived in Reston for 13 plus years. September it'll be 14. And I have been volunteering for, I think my oldest is 23, so probably 20 years in various aspects. However, it wasn't until 2022, I think 2022, that there was an open position for Reston Association in the Hunters Woods Dogwood District. It was a appointment, someone had bowed out. I put my hat in and was appointed at that time. I ran at large last time and did not win. And then this past year in 2023, when Mike Collins stepped down as the apartment owners rep, a number of individuals reached out and asked me if I would serve again. And so my name went into the hat again. The apartment owners actually, the board does not get to appoint the apartment owners rep, even when someone steps down. It is still an election for the apartment owners. And so the apartment owners voted and I won that seat for the remaining of the year. And so the current apartment owners rep position is the final 2 years of Mike Collins' term, which started last year. So running again, and in case those don't know, there are 23 apartments, although only actually 18 owners, because Fairfax County owns a number of those buildings. And so therefore, those 23 apartment building owners, so 18 owners, get to vote as to who's the apartment owners rep. And that only requires a 10% quorum, which has been met.
Ah,
You need to.
yeah.
They were successful. So as far as what I bring to RA, I think Jalal, who serves with me, knows I am certainly not shy with my thoughts and opinions at times. I do read the multiple 100-page RA packet every month.
240.
Was it that the last month? Yeah. And I actually have a good working relationship with the RA staff. We have been doing a number of things lately. Some things will be coming back to the board, hopefully this month, that we've been collaborating on. And then as far as what's coming forth, there's the review of the Reston deed. And so that's going to be a huge undertaking. And so there are a number of us who are in a little working group that will start that process. I personally believe that Reston Association now is a great time to start working more collaboratively with the community, including Fairfax County. I think we have a great opportunity as some people are retiring. Supervisor Alcorn is looking for ways to collaborate, and what can everyone do to make Reston even better than what it is. And so I'm excited for the future in that sense.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And good luck.
Thank
Dennis.
Dennis Hayes, first came to Reston in 1979, and then I've been kind of in and out as I would be overseas and go back and everything. So I'm a former president of this organization, former president of the Reston Runners, chairman of the Library Advocates, among the Friends of the Library Board. So I'm a joiner. You can tell. I have a lot of comments and questions. I'm gonna hold them until we hear from our candidates, because you may well address some of these things already, because they're probably common issues and concerns. And the one thing I'll say at this time is that I think everybody at this table comes to this because there was an issue that they cared a lot about. And you, as an individual, you look around and you try to figure out, well, you know, where can I do something? How can I talk to somebody and try to influence how this goes forward? And so I stumbled into, because of the library issues that I had, into this organization, and I've been here ever since.
Lucky for us.
So the thing that I think RCA does, and RA, we pretty much always had a very good relationship with RA and the RA board members, and you guys have an important and a job and everything. But we do, I like to think of us more of as an activist think tank, that we take on long-term issues and we try to figure out how best to do them. So I'll stop there. Joe.
Yeah, I'm Joe Layton, and I came here in 1981, and then in the year 2000, I decided to run for the Western Association Board. Actually, I ran in 1997 and lost by 26 votes. But then I came back for South Lakes, and I ran in 2000. The main reason I started to run was because the Western Association invested in derivatives, which was an investment which was illegal for them to. But they did anyway. So that's why I got interested. Then I joined in 2000. One of the best things we did, we interviewed about 100. I mean, we got applications for over 100 people, and then the committee interviewed about 6 people. We were very happy to hire Jerry. That's the best thing you do in the board. And the board voted 9-0 to hire him. And then about the year 2005 or 2006, we worked as a team to pass the governing documents, and that was a lot of hard work, because I would go out and meet with people at about various cluster meetings and stuff like that. But being the South Lakes representative, anytime anyone had a problem that lived in South Lakes, that they would call me, and I'd try to take care of the problem. And then I sat out for 1 year because of term limits, and then I ran again, and I got elected at large. And then after being on 3 years, the 4th year, I got elected secretary of RA. And then when I was elected secretary, one thing I was very transparent about when we came out of the assessment, when we voted to approve the salary of the person, I made sure it was in the minutes, and the board approved it. I actually put down what they made, and then around the time when I was secretary, Terry Maynard approached me about joining RCA, and he told me it's not a conflict for you to be on the RCA board, and also be secretary of the Western Association. I don't know if that was true or not, but anyway, he joined. As soon as I joined, I said I'll volunteer to be treasurer, and that was probably about 12 years ago, and I've been treasurer.
Joe is our treasurer. Since then.
And I've been
Got a great condo in St. Croix, as I understand.
Yeah.
we don't have that money. And I also served as president on my cluster for 12 years. And I also spent a lot of time praying duplicate bridge, even though it's going downhill because a lot of people only want to pray online now. But that keeps me busy. I'm 84 years old, and I still lead a very active life.
You're going to be 85 this year in August, right?
No, July. And also, another thing I did, I persuaded this gentleman right here to join the RCA board. He did.
Good. That's a good segue.
Yes. So now it's his turn.
Yeah, I'm Sean Inslee. I've been in Reston since 1996. So it's been 28 years. It's hard to believe. For a while, I was the actual chairman of the fiscal committee for RA. I left because I pissed off the president. She wanted to hire a consultant for $1, and at one of our meetings, and we opposed it because it said, you get what you pay for, right? For $1, I mean, and it was a friend of hers, by the way, also. So, but anyway, didn't really matter. I was on the fiscal committee there for, oh gosh, I don't know, probably 8 or 9 years. So I think Jerry left right after I went on the fiscal committee. And Milton Matthews, and then, the other guys.
Yeah.
So,
There's a lot of cross pollination.
yeah, you do. And then, of course, as Joe said, he brought me on to RCA. But I think one of the most interesting things is Dennis is correct. You joined because something bothers you. And what really bothers me more anymore is that I think Fairfax County is an overly bureaucratic organization, and they truly believe they're closer to God on earth than anybody, than any of the citizens. And you can certainly tell that when they testify, and Moses came down with tablets, RCA board comes with whatever they want. So, and I think that RCA offers a perspective that, they need to hear. And I think that, Lynn yesterday testified against the casino. And, those are types of things that I think they would rather not hear. And it's important that they hear that from the citizens. So, directors on the RA board, I mean, you're part of that process. I think it's really important that whatever you do has an impact, because I've heard, believe me, since I've been here for 28 years, I've listened to the RA board, and every single year is the exact same question for every director. How do you communicate with the membership? I will tell you that every director candidate answers the question, and everything stays the same. But the point of fact of the matter is, what is most important is your understanding of what's going on is really, really. So anyway, thanks for coming, and we appreciate it.
Mhm. Michelle?
Hi, I'm Michelle Silver, and I joined, well, I guess it'll be 2 years in July. So coming up on 2 years. I've lived in Ruston since 2001. I remember it was September 2001 when I moved in, so I'll never forget that. And so I've been here a long time, and I love Ruston, but I hadn't really been involved in any of the, local organizations, if you will. And, again, to the point that Dennis and Sean made, something tugs at your heart and you get involved. And so, I'm all about green space and saving it as much as we possibly can. People think I might just be one of these crazy people who chains themselves to a tree, if they try to cut it down. So anyway, I was, involved with the whole Fannie Mae project that is right in my backyard where I live. And through that, I met Lynn, who is just down the street from me, a hop, skip, and a jump, and got to know her. And as a result, she extended the invitation to join. And I thought, gosh, I've been here so long. And I really enjoyed doing the 2 testimonies that I did, one in front of the Fairfax Planning Commission and then the other one in front of the board. And it fired me up. So I joined.
Good for us.
Still learning a lot of stuff. These guys, I defer to folks a lot, or, to not defer to them, but I look to them for, any advice, insight, because I'm still learning.
Well, this is how you learn. You just
That's right.
jump in and follow others and keep soaking it in.
Well, I've been talking to my friends and stuff about it. Like, even before I came here, I was still at work at 6:15, and I'm like, I gotta go soon. What do you? And I started telling him, and he was like, "Oh, really?" And he lives in Fairfax, and I was like, "Yeah, the casino." I mentioned that. And he's like, "Well, send me anything you have." So yeah, I think that's also important.
Yeah.
Keeping getting the word out to people.
Howdy.
Okay, I'm Penny Hartke, and I joined the RCA board, I think it was 2012. And I don't really remember how it all came about. Was the Ruston Task Force number 1 was that happening in 2012? I think so, because it was accepted in 2015. Yeah, that's it.
That's
So-
when
Somehow
French LSA
I
was
went to
the,
some meetings, I went to some of those meetings, so some people got to know me, and anyway, someone who was on the RCA board at the time came over, we met, and she asked me to join. My dad had died, so I felt like I had time to do that. And then about 6 months or so later, I was asked to join the Rescue Reston board. So anyway, that's, so it got me very involved very quickly. But by joining Reston Citizens Association, which is very important for everyone to understand, represents all of Small Tax District 5, which is all of Reston, not just Reston Association land. Okay, so the town center, this building is not Reston Association land.
Right.
Although it does pay Small Tax District number 5 tax, as all of you homeowners do, as does everyone who owns property in Reston. So I came on and we had a member named Terry Maynard, still an active person. He writes, he would take an issue and write about it, and it was just so fabulous. And then it would get so detailed. And then it would, you know, so the average reader, it was just too much for the average person. And so one of my goals in joining was to take some of what Terry did and turn it into a one-pager if possible. There's, I think at least one is 2 pages. But real important, if you haven't already, you can go to the RCA Reston.org. That's our website, such as it is. We're a volunteer organization that doesn't have much money, but RCAReston.org, there's a tab that says 411, which used to be how you dialed information.
Yeah.
And I think there's only 4 documents on there, maybe 5. And some of them probably need some updating, but I'm very proud of them. With others on the board, we collaborated, we worked, and we really put it down into one page. What is the Small Tax District 5 and this Reston Community Center tax, and what does it mean? And that is really important. If you know about what Supervisor Alcorn, his motion that he made yesterday to start looking at all of these alphabets. Yeah.
Yes.
The RCC, Reston Community Center, has about a $9 to $10 million surplus. It's really time to start thinking about what are they doing for all of Reston, and maybe helping, in my opinion, let's see if we can't have them start helping with some of the RA amenities that everybody uses no matter where they live. So anyway, then there's several other documents that are kind of core to knowing about living in Reston, very helpful to read. So that's how I came to be here, and I'm still here because I think it's really important and I care. And I find land use a little bit fascinating.
Thanks.
Anyone else finds it fascinating,
Yeah.
please think about joining us.
Yeah. Jalal.
Great. First of all, thank you for inviting us, and thanks for getting us together. I think it's important for all of us to communicate and be partners. I don't know what to start with. So about me, my wife and I and my 2-year-old first came to Reston in 1989 to join. At the time, I was working for the NASA Space Station Program Office in Reston.
Oh.
Stayed here for about 16, 18 months, and I got shifted back to Houston to work for the so-called NASA Royal Johnson Space Center of America. That's what they call it, human space flight. So I was there for about another 16 months, and our experience in Reston was really good. Back when we were here in '89, no metro, no town center. It was just beautiful. My wife just walks on a daily basis, and we just loved it. So we decided to come back here, and I got a transfer. Space station in Reston, same place. Fast forward after a few years, this was in 1992. So in 1992, when we came here, we stayed. So we had been here full time, if you will, since 1992. My son went to Terrasset, ended up at Sunrise Valley, Langston Hughes, South Lakes High School, UVA, finished there, got a fellowship at UCLA, got his master's, almost finished his PhD, came back. He's now here in Reston, he lives in Reston, he works with the Patent Trade Office. He's been here for about 10 years now. While he was growing up, I started doing soccer. I played myself, so my wife signed me up, volunteered me to coach soccer. Ended up coaching soccer for about 10 years. And I'm proud to say that the kids that I coached for Reston soccer, I would say about 80% of them ended up in college. So you learn the value of mentorship, helping kids. That was my entree into community service. And it was just like a family. You get used to that. After the kids went to college, I was doing my thing and ended up working for again, going back to a contractor. I worked for SAIC at Tyson's for almost 9 years, and then ended up at the federal government doing all kinds of interesting stuff. My background is engineering, so you know, I was finishing my college at University of Texas Austin. Also did leadership strategy at MIT Sloan and a couple of places here and there, and also a couple of classes at Harvard. So it ended up in the federal government again, joined the ranks of senior executive service, which is the highest you can get to. What that means is you've basically learned how to do policy, technology, manage people, budgets, and learn how to work with localities. And in the job that I was doing as part of Homeland Security, Science and Technology Division Director, I work with a bunch of localities, governments, including Fairfax County and other places. So you get to learn how to play with these people. One of the other things that you learn is how to treat people, how to be with leadership, how to treat up and down, all the way up and down, regardless of age, race, color, anything you can imagine. That people are people; they want to be respected with, treated with respect. So you learn the value of partnerships, and I practiced it myself. Fast forward to about 1.5 years ago, well, actually longer than that. You know, we all went through this development phase here, and it was crazy.
Yeah.
Right down here, all these builders and so on just coming in with their plans, and we all got involved. And I was part of the SOS, Save Our Sunrise, and we were trying to figure out what is going on. I mean, they're basically taking over Reston, and some of us who lived here, it's like it's changing its character. I would say that was the turning point for me to kind of start paying attention and be involved in some of the community activities. So I helped with SOS, and last year, it just became just too much in the form of, you get to a point where you stop complaining and you ask yourself, do you want to lead, follow, or get out of the way? And I decided to basically get involved. I think it's always good to have a seat at the table. I have ideas. I think RA can do better. I've maintained that since last year. By the way, truth be told, I ran. I didn't win the first time. And then there was a position available, just like Margaret was saying. I interviewed for it and I got accepted into this 1-year position. As far as how I see things, RA needs to project awareness and power and just be involved. If RA is going to represent the community, Reston, they need to show who they are. I think the best example that we achieved, I would say, last year, when all of us came together to fight the casino. It was just like a lightning rod. Everybody got involved. You guys got involved. All these other organizations got involved. I think we need to keep that. I would also say that we need to partner. We need to come up with, everybody brings something to it. We may agree on things. It's okay to agree. But on the things that we agree, I think if we focus that energy towards the things that matter for Reston, as I say, keep Reston, those are the important ones. So my thinking about RA is just getting things done. And to your point, I'm not going to tell you fiscal responsibility, communication, and this, we all know that. Right? The website, you know, this, that, and so on. I think we need to be proactive. I think we need to act and work with others to get things done. Finally, I would say it is very important for the board, for the RA board, to be rational, respectful, and work collaboratively. I think it's very, very important. So what's happening right now is, along the way, and also serving as the president of my homeowners association for like 8 years at Lakes Point Cluster, right off South Lakes Drive.
Yeah.
I have learned how RA operates. I've learned even more, the inside. sort of seeing the inside baseball.
Right.
Um, there's so much that we need to do. By the way, as you all know, casino's not dead yet.
No,
Don't even sit on your laurels and say.
We know that.
we know.
So, well, we know that, we know that, we know that. I think most people now think that, hey, it's done. I'm gonna stop right here, because I would like to make this interactive and hopefully we'll answer questions.
Yeah, yeah, we'll have,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
we'll
some,
have
just a
dynamics.
little bit about.
Thank you. Izzy,
I'm Izzy Santa. I was for a brief time involved with RCA. The density fight was occurring. So I totally opposed it. I also I did this while I had a 2-year-old, and it was a lot. So I had to step back. Jack is now 9, so he's self-sufficient. So it helps. I would say Reston adopted me in 2014. That's when I moved in to my husband's bachelor pad, and I love Reston so much, especially Barton Hill, that I've moved twice, 0.4 miles from our condo to our townhouse to our single family house. We're the people that pushed our furniture down the street. So I love Reston. My in-laws live in North Point. They've lived there for over 15 years. My sister-in-law lives in Reston. So my whole family lives in Reston. I'm originally from Puerto Rico, so far away from home. But one of the things that I've learned through this process has been, I've been going out, I've been door knocking, I've been setting up meetings with clusters, and nobody knows anything. And you don't understand the role that RA does. Like, I literally was at a cluster meeting, and this is reflective of why I think the alphabet soup that was passed is a very good thing, is because people are like, can you have Reston Association fix the lighting at the gas station because it's too bright? And I was like, well, and I had to explain to the cluster, I was like, that's not, RA property. I had another person who said, can I get a sidewalk? I was like, that's a VDOT issue.
yeah.
But throughout all of those interactions, I've been saying, you should actually talk to Reston Citizens Association. I've been sending people your way
Thank you.
because I'm like, they can help you more than I can right now in the role that I'm trying to apply for. And I think that's the beauty of like all the directors here, is that everybody tells us so much that it's a matter of funneling the information to the right actors so they can choose what they would like to do with that information. Because I do think there's a lot of eagerness from people.
Mhm.
I'm a Reddit user. Anyways, it's an online forum. There's over 2,000 people there from Reston. They're all live in Reston, and they constantly are writing about planning issues and complaining about RA. And I'm like, you need to do more than just, you have to show up, engage, talk to other wise people like you guys to get them going. Because I think people do want to dedicate their time and resources. And I think it's a matter of channeling it in the right way. And that's one of the things that I've learned knocking on doors is I think we need to fix that first in order to kind of get our community going. But from a fundamental perspective from RA, I got involved. I live on Barton Hill Road. Obviously, that is my issue because there was a pickleball project coming to my neighborhood, and my position was there's no way you can bring all that infrastructure if you're not going to fix the path. There's a trail path that goes to Sunrise Valley, and that's a dangerous path. And I was like, there's no way, you have to move the trail. That was my position. And I went and I showed up to a board meeting. I explained myself. I had articles. I made my case, and the next day I had Travis, Jennifer, Mac. I said a joke, and I was like, hey, I'll host you for charcuterie, and we can watch this disaster. And they came, and Lori Dodd was there, and we talked about it. I was like, how can we fix the trail? Because you can't do this unless you fix existing infrastructure. Thankfully, we were successful in the case. RA submitted an application to VDOT, but I've shared the story multiple times with many clusters, and they all have the same issue of we would like more pedestrian safety, especially in Fairway, a Forest Edge, the Hamlet by the Glade. Somebody's like, to me, it opened my eyes. Like there needs, like, I don't know why the Mulcho and Mojo Transportation Committee got rid in RA, but like that would be the perfect place to start addressing this issues. If not there, then maybe the Land Use Committee. But like now I'm more passionate than ever. Like if I were on the board, like people really do care about that issue. The other issue that I care about deeply is dues are just, they're too high. we pay small district 5, we pay RA, we have cluster dues for those who live in a cluster. And it's like, where can the baseline of the conversation should be, how do we stay steady? And our reach goal should be, how could we reduce? Could we even reduce? But a lot of times the frustration that I found myself in when I brought this up with members with current board members has been, what's inflation? And that to me is that's not good enough. And I think there's places where, we could maybe explore the programs that aren't generating that much revenue. Camps is like the main revenue driver for for existing programs. Are there places that we can either shrink the program services, but there needs to be, I think, more review of what we're spending and what our revenues are. Because I just can't believe that the answer is it's inflation.
May I say one quick thing? It just burns on me. I just ask everyone, please, Reston Community Center tax, go to that 411 document, understand it, think about it, think about how much building, think about how much increased revenue they're getting. Think
Because of all
about
the
that.
building.
And then let's
They've
talk
also
about
been sitting on $8 million for a
Yeah.
number of years.
Yeah,
Let's
we-
bring
we-
that topic up
we-
later, especially
Yes.
what can we do about this? It's not
Yes.
the first time we've had that much stuff.
No, it's just been
It's
sitting
a-
there for a while.
It's a good thing to focus
Yeah.
on it, because everyone wants to focus on RA. But what about this little hidden RCC tax?
Well, the problem is.
So
a lot
let's
of people
table
don't
this
know
until we
about it.
finish our round
Apologize.
table, if we may.
Thank you, Lynn.
Yes.
I'm Rich Hoffman. I'm probably the rookie on the RCA board. I've been a member for maybe 6 months, something like that. We moved out here from Annandale in 2018, live over by Lake Audubon. I have a daughter in Forest Edge community. She's one of 5 daughters. The other 4 are all over the country. So she's the nearest one. So it seemed like a good place. And Lynn also knew I wanted to live on water. So that's why we live by the lake.
His
in
wife
terms-
is Lynn, not me.
Yeah.
His wife is Lynn.
Lynn without any.
Right.
In terms of public service, I've worked for the federal government on natural gas pipeline projects for 34 years. And that was a public service type of job, where one of the things we did was the environmental and safety work. And reaching out to citizens was part of what we did. And part of what I designed when I got into SES was a whole pre-filing process, so that people, the landowners along a pipeline route and adjacent to a pipeline route, were never surprised by it anymore, because we require pipeline companies to notify everybody along a proposed route before they even file an application. So if there isn't anything like that in Fairfax County, there ought to be.
Yeah,
I mean, to build a shed on my old property in Annandale, I had to notify all my neighbors to do it, so it's kind of weird that anybody would be surprised by a development process. But anyway, I got involved in RCC because when we joined here, I met one of my lifetime goals, which was to join a nice country club. So I joined Hidden Creek Country Club to find out somebody wanted to bulldoze the whole damn thing and turn it into a housing development. So I started going to meetings, and that's when I met Lynn, who's another member of Hidden Creek Country Club. And, just a little by a little gotten involved in things and have a concern about what's going on. So that's about it.
Jerry.
I'm Jerry Malloy. First, I want to thank each of you candidates for loving our community to the
And y'all
extent that
too.
You up there too.
yes.
you have raised your hand to devote the time and effort as a candidate for the RA board to keep Reston the great community that it is. We moved here after moving 23 times in the military. We moved here in '97. We live on Lake Audubon. And every day when I pull up the blinds and look out there, I thank God for as many blessings that He's bestowed upon my wife and myself. A little bit of background: after serving in the Air Force for 24 years, 6 years as an instructor in the Air Force Top Gun School. I also commanded 2 of the largest installations in the Air Force, one at Nellis Air Force Base, which had a population of about 80,000 people and had about 11,000 people working for me. And as a installation commander, you command everything from security and law enforcement to legal to administration, you name it, the whole keeping the base good, etc. But anyway, after I got out of the military, well, the final thing I did, I was the exec to the Undersecretary of the Air Force, and my primary job was getting $135 billion budget through the Secretariat. So that was fun as well, but it was a great life in the military. After that, went into training a whole bunch of pilots and building training centers in England, Scotland, Belgium, Berlin, Istanbul for Southwest Airlines in Dallas, FedEx in Memphis. A whole bunch of pilot that included everything from $30 million full flight simulators to classroom instruction to computer-based training. Then after that, I went to work for the Defense Security Service and did some other things that are irrelevant. But they wanted to send me, after retiring as the vice president of program management for the LexisNexis Corporation, they wanted to send me to go back to Ohio, where I was born, and I didn't want to do that. So I said, pay me a fortune and I'll get out and go find another job. So I was here in Reston, and the job as the CEO of the Reston Association came available. And I think manning 2 of the largest Air Force installations helped, but Bob Simon was on the board of directors when I got chosen to be the CEO of the Reston Association. A great organization, great people, many of whom don't live in Reston but dedicate their lives to making our community the great community that it is. While I was there, first thing that happened, Bob Simon told me, Jerry, we've got about $40,000 extra, and I want to devote that to putting something out into wherever the hell it was, out in the woods or something. I said, no, we're not going to do that. I said, I've been told we've got problems in our watershed, and I'm going to develop a plan if we do have problems in our watershed, what needs to be done to fix it, how much money is required to fix it, etc. So that if money ever does become available, we'll have a plan to fix our watershed. And then Virginia made a law that said if you ever destroy a watershed somewhere else in Virginia, you have to put some money in the pot to repair a watershed somewhere else. And so one of our founders came to me and said, Jerry, have I got a deal for you? I know you've got a plan, and a lot of people are putting money into fixing watershed problems elsewhere. And today, because we did have a plan, and we were the only people to have a plan, over $80 million of watershed work has been done in the Reston community without the members of the Reston Association having to pay for that.
That's great.
A couple of other things that I'm proud of. While I was there, we had a referendum for Nature House, and we almost got 100% yeses to build the Nature House. And again, that all came from contributions by people other than the Reston Association. So we built Nature House. And also the other thing was the Southgate Community Center joined with Fairfax County to get the Southgate Community Center built And I'm very proud of that as well. The organization's a great organization that I love dearly. And like I said, and I was the CEO of the Reston Association, also the president of the Alliance of Reston Clusters and Homeowners, and also for a time did work with the RCA board as well.
We're lucky to have you back.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks for joining.
it's
joining.
so after a while, after having a lot of fun for a few years, and because of the tremendous growth and challenges that Reston faces today, I said, I got to get involved again in serving this community. And
And
keeping
he
it
had
the
to say
great,
yes to shut me up.
and keeping it the great community that it is. I'm very proud to be a member of the RCA board. It's a great organization with great leadership and great members. And that's a little bit about Jerry Malloy. And
Thank you, Jerry.
you know,
So we're gonna move to folks that are on Zoom, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start in the order that I see you all in clockwork fashion. So it looks like we've got Linda and then Darren, and I don't think is Sarah McHugh.
Oh, Sarah.
So we're gonna go Linda, then Darren, and then Sarah. So Linda, do you want to unmute yourself and introduce yourself and thank.
That's the
There-
unmute. Got done. Hi.
Hi.
I'm a native Midwesterner who relocated here after grad school in 1990. While in Chicago, where I spent a lot of my youth, I worked for Sears and the Sears Tower for almost a decade, and then finally became a non-traditionalist college student going to Wright College in Chicago. I was involved in student representation and got appointed by then Mayor Harold Washington as the first student in the city of Chicago to ever participate on a citizen committee. And it was to nominate and review candidates for the board of trustees. I ended up transferring to the University of Illinois and had joined the Illinois Board of Higher Ed Student Advisory Committee and served on that for 5 years. Working with every single aspect of higher ed from a student perspective, from proprietary schools to community colleges to colleges and universities. So I was involved a lot in policy. I was a student lobbyist at times in Springfield and DC. 2 things involved in student government in Urbana. 2 things I considered my lasting legacy was getting involved in a referendum where we had a student fee to go to the bus system, and the students were deciding whether or not to fully fund it or not. I can tell you that now, 30 years later, the bus system exists in such a way they never knew that it was a choice before. It's been that integrated into the campus and the campus community. The other thing was in the mid-80s, computing was all the rage. There was a computer fee imposed. I served for 4 years on the computer fee committee, helped to allocate millions of dollars to all sorts of projects all over the campus. And this is a campus that had 32 libraries and all sorts of labs and just improved computing so that students had access almost 24 hours. And this is at the time where you didn't really even own your own computer. So I can say is that I helped establish student computing to a really high degree at UIUC. Then I moved out here in 1990 and with a master's in higher ed, I worked placing interns in foreign policy, arms control, anti-terrorism, and I did that for almost 6 years. And then because of those activities, had used a lot of my knowledge of how things work in policy in my job. And then from 1990 to 2003, I actually lived in Herndon and then moved for a couple years up to Columbia and then to Vermont and then came back here in 2013 with my husband. And at that time, I'd also, still being in DC, I worked and supported a 70-member board of directors at one of the largest membership organizations in the country. I was a nice Buddhist girl who worked for a bunch of rabbis and supported the Union for Reform Judaism and took care of 75 congregations in 6 states. That was a lot of fun, and got to know so many of the Holocaust survivors and worked on supporting their mission. So from that, I got recruited from friends at work and participate in the Renaissance Fair. And I served for 10 years on the board of the Rescue Entertainers Services Crafters United. And we raised money to provide medical assistance to people who weren't making more than $15,000 a year because they couldn't afford medical insurance. So I did that for 10 years. About that time, my husband had a stroke and he got transferred back here to Northern Virginia. And so from 2011 to 2023, his health declined much more from 2021 and 2023. And last year, he had 6 hospitalizations and spent 146 days in Reston Hospital Center, which I've gotten to know very well. And he passed away in December. So I have all this experience. Let's see, I've also, at college, served on the Tenant Union Advisory Board for a number of years. And also the city of Urbana appointed me as part of the Zoning Board of Appeals. And I served on that for a couple of years. So I have lots of civic and experience, a lot of nonprofit experience, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So you're asking about, well, why do you want to get involved? Well, I've been kind of precluded from that by my husband's caregiving for a number of years. So I saw this as an opportunity, and as somebody who has been an apartment dweller for a very long time, to say, how can I help contribute? So with those type of experiences, I'm available. I'd like to get involved more in what's going on in Reston. I've had just pretty much an outside perspective to see how things work and run and see how they participate, because I wasn't able to volunteer to take on any responsibility in those time periods. So that's a very condensed version. Also have
So much. That's, I'm so sorry for your loss. But it's, we're happy that you are running for the position on the RA board, and good luck to you, Linda.
thank you.
Thank you. And I do want to state a correction. I mentioned Sarah McHugh. Sarah, I did see your chat that you are not running. So we have one additional. So it's just going to be you, Darren. You're our last candidate.
Well, at least I'm not coming in after lunch, right? So that's one of the benefits here. And I wish I was there in the room. I really do. There's something special about meeting people for the first time, looking in their eyes, shaking their hand, and reading the body language and the mannerisms that really helps you engage with folks. So I've been a part of this community, this wonderful community, for about 19 years. I'm a husband, a father to 5. I still have 2 in the schools here in Reston. I'm a vice president for a Reston-based Fortune 500 company. I work right in the Reston Town Center. The passion for the first 30 years of my life is about space exploration. I've led several missions to Mars. I was a NASA employee for 15 years, and then I'm on the other side, on the contractor side. So I've had both government experience and contractor experience. But living here in this community, it's now time for me to change my passion. And my passion is just welled up inside of me for this community. And I'm focusing on primarily what brought me here is growth, the concerns I have around growth. I'm not against growth, just the wrong kind of growth that we've been having here. There's been an attack on our open spaces for far too long. I also believe that we need to have a stronger voice with Fairfax. They have no problem taking our taxes, but it does seem they always put their priorities here and some of the things that we need to be focused on. Also, the issue with the areas that aren't controlled by RA, right? Why aren't we out there building collaborations? Why aren't we out there with businesses looking for sponsorships for improvements? So, you know, I think Izzy mentioned pickleball and things like that. Why don't we think creatively? You know, it's time to get down back to basics. You know, I'm frustrated by the increases in our dues each year, and you know, we have to be able to manage and collaborate better and offset those dues. We can't continue to have those dues continually go higher. I'm also concerned about you know, traffic congestion. I think we need to focus on how we're going to alleviate that. Maybe it's some of these midpoint over bridges that we've had focuses and studies on, and looking for new patterns. And you know, I want to make sure that we're focused on pedestrian safety and all the things that we need to pay attention to with this growth. One thing I really, you know, I moved here again 19 years ago, and it was because of the charm. This is a place where you can raise your family, and obviously I'm doing that with my wife and our children. And I didn't move here to live in a high density inner city, high, you know, high rise type of community. And you know, I'm not against the building, the builders. I'm against maybe building too fast, maybe not planning it out right. And you know, let's work with the builders to go find a better solution for all. So I'll kind of pause there, and I'll turn it back over to you, Lynn. Thank you again for having us and giving us a chance. You have some phenomenal other candidates here that I'm running against. So I don't think you can go wrong with any three of us here.
Well, thank you, Darren. I do have to admit, I have an ulterior motive for pulling this together, because at the end of the election, I will be contacting those who lost to come join us on the RCA board. But thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And thank you, you know, everybody for, you know,
Thank you for me.
sure,
On your
sure. So, you know, as Dennis mentioned, you know, there are some questions, I think, as we were going around the table. There were some similar areas of concern. I think, Connie, you probably started it, and what we can do is pick up on the RCC, the small tax district number 5 tax, and how, you know, what's the solution, and what do we expect Walter's assessment to reveal?
Yeah, well, first he's just trying to get some facts
Right.
together. And then I'm hoping that there's going to be a call for a working group of some kind, and try to figure out how these alphabet soup of organizations can start working more closely together. And, you know, I mean, my big thing is the lakes are a big concern financially for RA. The dams, there's something called dams, and just and the cost of the pathways. Everybody uses that, whether they work here and just go out for a walk at lunch, or they live, and you know, even if they don't live in RA land. I would really like to see some of that Reston Community Center tax start helping with RA. And I don't know if that's practical, but I do think that will come up for discussion when and if a working group happens. And what would you RA board members think of getting a little help from that Reston Community Center tax that everybody pays for? You know, all of Boston Properties buildings contribute to that.
Yeah, I know one of the issues, and you know, we've seen this in Reston Planning and Zoning Committee, where, you know, we are telling the developers that they need to consider very seriously, if it's a residential development, especially if it's, you know, in a residential area, that they should become members of RA. Because those residents
That was under Kathy Hudgens. You can thank her for that.
Yeah.
They do, and we've
Including the
never
choice
put
to
enough
not join
pressure, I
anything.
think, on the supervisor to help
Right.
make sure that all new residential development that's not within the confines of the Reston Town Center Association join RA, but I think RA needs to come up with a plan of what benefits might accrue to a development to become members of the Reston Association as well. One of the past presidents of the Reston Association came up with a plan and some ideas, but it's sort of died somewhere. But we have to be able to communicate to developers the benefits of becoming members of the Reston Association.
I have to jump in here and say that's 100% where I believe is that we have to be working with the builders to find a way that we can bring them into the RA or provide benefits, as you said. I think it's obscene to me that we've allowed so many of those folks that take use of the common areas that the RA has to maintain without getting any of the income that can come into that. That's one of my biggest frustrations that I've identified.
Darren, you're absolutely right. All the new development will have an impact upon all the facilities that the Reston Association maintains and has. And that impact needs to be compensated, I think, by the developers. Good point.
I have a question.
Could we ask Joel and Izzy to chime in on that subject if they? Sure. How do you want us to go? In that order or? Who's the boss?
Jump right in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
There's
is-
there's
yeah,
lots
this
of
is
good
not
information
structured.
available. This is not news.
Yeah, as Margaret
And
knows,
we'll come back to you, Michelle, for your question.
as Margaret knows, the subject has always come up during the discussions during board meetings. One has to realize that it's not just a binary thing where you worry about getting the developers to pay, convince them that they will pay and that they will pay. What we have learned is that the developers will not pay. They will do anything they can to get out of this. Point being, which is Margaret mentioned, with the 3,000 households or residents that will not be paying the RA dues. So if you think about the dues, I mean, all of these things are related. That's my point. It's not just get developers to pay and therefore we fix this problem. The 3,000 units that will not be paying, that has a huge impact on the dues. How do you convince them? It's not a question of convincing them. Margaret, you know, we've heard this. You go to the developers. Hey, it's their bottom line. How do we approach that? How do we work with the county to make sure that our voices are heard? And this is what I was referring to. I think every one of us agrees that RA needs to be more powerful, better voice, and the way to do that. Again, I'll come back to, we got to come together and act as one, just like what we did with the casino. So point is that the developers will do anything they can to get out of this. Units, they got out of it. There's nothing we can do right now. You can go to the developers. They've got their own lobbyists, they've got lawyers, they've got this, that, and so on. This is something I've learned when working with Save Our Sunrise.
I have to disagree with you that there's nothing we can do right now. We've got to be having a strong voice with Fairfax. We have to be able to go down and make our voice be heard. And that's where I'm frustrated, is that we're willing to have the builders just say, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. Well, guess what? We have to, like we did with casino, we have to go get a commonality of vision, and we have to go work with Fairfax.
It's interactive. I'm in favor of it.
Well,
The conversation, I mean,
Yeah.
we have a good point. He's got a good point. And we want to hear the.
Right of
You
thought there.
finished? Yes.
And, you know, it would be very helpful, Darren, if you let me finish, and then you can jump in there with your opinion. You cannot.
I apologize. I thought you were paused there, so I won't do it again. I apologize there, Joel.
You cannot just make a comment and say, we have to do this, therefore let's go do this. You can't. I'm giving you the realities. I'm not against it. I am 100% for it. Don't get me wrong. Just putting something out there. Good luck to you. Go talk. Go against these.
Start. It's a start.
I'm not.
You don't have an opinion and you don't have a position. you will get absolutely no
So
consideration.
that is my point.
Exactly my point, is that you need to make that and be very firm and strong. And what the success that we have had, and I'll shut up in a second.
No, no.
The successes we've had is when we have been very clear about what our objectives are and how we work to achieve them. And we used to get beat 100% of the time. Now we get beat 50% of the time. And that's not bad.
So let me just throw in a couple of things. First and foremost, I think everyone on the current board and certainly everyone coming in agrees that it would be great if everyone coming in would join RA that are not part of our TCA. Okay, absolutely. Kathy Hudgens put in place many years ago the opportunity for developers to make that choice. Prior to that, it wasn't a choice, but she put that out there. It became the way it is.
Is it
We-
still law? Is it written into the
It's,
rules?
it's,
Let's
Well,
reverse
that
it.
was gonna be my question.
Reverse it.
What is
Yeah,
it?
really, that's what I was thinking.
again, you have to work with the county. This is not an RA rule. This is a county.
That's right.
And if we
So
need
that
to
would be a
work
good thing for
with
RCA
the county.
to pick up.
We need to work with all RCA, we need to work with a number of places, and we need to have a strong voice. One of the things that the RA board did at the last budget meeting was to raise the non-member rates for recreational passes. And part of the logic behind that, and please know that we have the group that says we didn't raise it enough, we have the group that says we raised it too much. But the reality is part of the reasoning behind that was you had developers who went, well, we don't care, they'll just pay the non-member rate and they'll use your stuff and it's not a big deal. So, okay, let's at least increase that so that if that's your goal, we've now made it so it's not as easy as it once was, right? Like, so now it's, yes, they can still absolutely do that, but now that number has increased significantly. And that, so there are pieces that we are working on. Supervisor Alcorn wants to have conversations with RA, wants to work with RA and see how they can communicate. There is language under Small Tax District 5 that specifically states that those monies are to go to the benefit of amenities used by all Restonians. Well, guess what fits into that? Trails and lakes.
Exactly.
It fits right into the language. Supervisor Alcorn is willing to have that conversation. Right now, we have a little bit of issue with people going, oh, I want this. And my gosh, you're gonna give it to me no matter what. Well, guess what? Doesn't work. Doesn't work for most people, doesn't work for the county, doesn't work for the developers. So yeah, you can slam your fist and tell them, gosh darn it, they better do what you're telling them, but you are not. Well, that's great. And they have a shite load of money.
And let me ask this question.
And I know Izzy would also like to
No,
respond to.
look.
Can I interject just 1 minute? Because I think Michelle had a question
yeah.
before we started
Well,
getting
Izzy
into.
didn't get to respond.
It was all
Yeah.
about this. My
Oh,
question was
okay.
very related and it was to them.
Okay,
But it was to, you keep saying Kathy Hutchins did this. I don't,
She did.
but again, what can we do to undo that?
that's right.
You have to work with the county.
Okay, I mean, that's what, I don't understand how, when you say that, like what that
Yeah.
really means.
Does
So
that
what,
mean there's an ordinance that says they have that flexibility? I mean, if it's just
Okay.
a policy, if you think about this, every single yesterday, we sat and heard all these developers go in and get the board of supervisors to approve their zoning recommendations. Now, if there's an ordinance that says, hey, they can, they don't need to join RA, then you have to repeal the ordinance, and that's a law change. But if it's just policy, then the board of supervisors, when they vote on the policy recommendation, can say, well, you have to join RA or you won't get your zoning. Now, what I'm hearing is, I haven't heard anything that you guys are the ones that are gonna have to implement this. Is it policy, which means that it's just tradition and?
Well, it sounds like it's a county policy.
It is- it is
as opposed to an
county.
RA policy.
Yeah.
Why don't you give Izzy a chance to.
I'll just, I
Yeah.
think we're all in agreement. I think.
We
my
are in
point is, You cannot just say, let's go do this, and therefore we can do this. It's not gonna work.
No,
That's all
no,
I'm saying.
I think
Thank
you're
you,
right.
Roger.
Everybody is in agreement, but the real question is, as a board member, have you ever, I mean, if this is just tradition, does RA go to, would you go to all these zoning hearings and say, hey, you board of supervisors, you need to do X? And I bet RA has never gone to a zoning requirement.
It's not a
and
zone.
said,
And,
well, it could be.
and please be aware, RA has very strict rules. There are only two people who are allowed to speak publicly on behalf of Preston Association, and it is not
The
us.
president and the CEO.
Well,
So,
you
if-
can change that
Or-
too.
or
I mean,
does
yeah,
it?
no, that's
well,
not- that's not-
that's in the governing documents.
Yeah.
So, that would have to be changed at
Well, anyway,
It's like
a very.
North
I wish I was just, let's get
Yeah.
busy just with.
Let's
So-
get it.
I was gonna add on, for context, because I looked into this issue, and the way county staff explained it to me was that they have to join an HOA, and so what they do is they create their own HOA. So to be clear, there is a rule, they do join an HOA and it's theirs. So I just want to provide that total, that's the loophole. But what I was talking to our supervisor, and what I suggested to him was, when the TSA came out, there was an economic impact study, but it was just to the TSA. And I said to him, you need to do an economic impact study for all of Reston that focuses on infrastructure, because if you're continuing to have this tit for tat with both leaders on the amenities that are being used, well, what does that look like? What are the numbers? What is the budget needed for that? What is the manpower? Because I think that will address the RCC issue, and I think that without economic data, we can't move voters, we can't move people to get angry. And I think it needs to be grounded on that, because I think we all agree on the principles, but for the advocacy part of this, because I think it's a coalition effort, it's not just an RA effort. We need to, I think as a first step, just urge the county to do that study, because otherwise we're all having complete facts. We know where we're supposed to be headed, but we don't have the intellectual ammunition to kind of rally the troops to say, hey, did you know? So that we can get X, Y, and Z achieved.
So let me ask this
Good
question.
point.
I was on a cluster board for 21 years. We have our own cluster and we pay RA dues.
Yes.
So the question, what you're saying is
But you're
you
on,
create your own HOA. So that's true, but
We're all in HOA.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we pay Reston dues, but you're saying the new ones, they just create an HOA and they don't have to.
that's why there's Reston Town Center has their own.
Well, yeah,
HOA.
that, I mean,
And
that-
then-
that's
and
unique.
then Supervisor Hudgens allowed it
Yeah,
at the end of the first Reston Master Plan Task Force. She allowed that they could join RA, they could join RTCA, or they could join nothing, or their own, whatever.
Right.
And that is the policy, and that is how it is. I would like Lynn to address something that Darren's put in the chat, where, and then you speak up, Darren, but he says the key to get agreements is in the developer proffer statements before Fairfax County approves the development. But Lynn was explaining to me the other day, because on the American Dream Way property, as I call it, Fannie Mae property, as others call it, I learned that Wheelock, the developer, they're not the ones that are going to be building the homes. It'll be Pulte or whoever. And the proffer, Wheelock, help me, Lynn, is Wheelock has to strongly encourage whoever builds, but they can't make them either. The proffer is that Wheelock will encourage whoever becomes the builder of the houses, right? But they
The
can't
proffer
make
was, the proffer was, and Michelle was
Yeah.
deep
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
the proffers. And correct me if I'm wrong,
We
but the
tried to get that
proffer,
one changed.
well, the proffer was that that Wheelock would go to Reston Association and have a discussion
They've been trying.
about
They
joining,
have been.
and
Or it's a no.
so it is, so if Wheelock comes back and says, we can't speak for the builder. Well, if they put in their agreements that this is going to be Reston Association property, then by God, when they get a builder to come in, that builder has to be a member of Reston Association.
How long
That's
has this been
part of
going
the
on?
terms.
long-
It's part of
How
the
long
terms.
has- That's a great idea. How long has this been going on? When did Hutchins do this? thing?
Oh, over a decade ago.
And, well,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So there's thousands of units that.
and,
think
and
in
to
one
my knowledge,
point-
nobody
When
thought.
the Restaurant Association
that was
turned
planned
over the
before
Reston, Reston Center for Industry and Government, all the development along the toll road to the county, that's when RA lost a lot of its power to influence the builders within the RCIG all along the toll road.
So if it's okay, I'm gonna read Darren's chat, or do you want to just?
Yeah,
read-
I think that the bigger issue that I was trying to get to is that after the fact, like everyone here in the room is saying, is when the challenge is, right? It has to be in during you're getting the approvals and when Fairfax is working and when you're putting the proffer together. And as you were saying, Lynn, when you need to make sure that you have the agreement in there that you will be part of the RA community. Another, though, we did have successful with the current development that's going to be going across the street from where we are on Upper Lake Drive, is that we wanted to have them change some of their the access for pedestrians. We wanted to make sure that they were putting an amphitheater in and some other things. And again, we were proactively working with the builders. And if you do that right, if you get a community group to go off and fight for it, sometimes the builders will listen to you. When it comes to paying dues and fees and those type of things, they're not as usually open about that. So the key, again, from what my bigger point was, why aren't we in there screaming with the Fairfax folks? And if we only have a voice of two people, then we need to be finding other methods and other ways to get in there and meet with them to make sure that our concerns and its impact and this growth is being handled in the right way. And I think everyone has the same position.
Very good point. And I do want to bring up Fannie Mae as a case study. Wheelock came in, they bought the Fannie Mae property. They went in for a rezoning from commercial to residential, and the original plan that they put forth was so incredibly dense. They were, flowing into the EQC. They were flowing into the EQC is the environmental quality corridor. They were flowing into the RPA, the resource protected areas. And thank goodness, members of RCA worked with our planning commissioner and the developer and said, this isn't going to work. And we got the thing scaled back. And I've got to give Michelle a lot of credit for, serving as the liaison on that project. But this is where, we're involved in development of the proffers and.
And the one thing, real quick, I'll just add on that, because we were talking about Fairfax, is when we testified, and even Larry came and.
Larry Butler
Larry, thank
from,
you.
yes,
Last name was escaping me.
it was one of his swan songs before he
Yes,
retired.
Exactly, and we testified that, one of the things, and I know it was in my testimony, was they need to be part of RA. Y'all need to change this. And we fought really hard for that. And Larry did too, and you did. And at the end of the day, they allowed it to be approved. I mean, it took them a while to get that approved. I mean, we fought hard, but they allowed it to get approved without joining RA. And I do point that
We are
at the
Who is
board.
they?
The board.
the planning
The Fairfax
commission.
County?
First it's the planning commission,
And
and then it goes to the
into
board.
So
So we've got to stop the
strongly,
waivers and
we begged
modifications.
for them to put that in there, and they did.
By the way, we have 5 SSPAs right now.
Yeah.
That's right.
We have 5 SSPAs that
I
has
had
to
a
go,
last week.
yeah, that have to go through,
That's right.
and I doubt very much that any of them have any membership in RA. And if, you think about it, I just know one because where my dentist is, Roland Clark Place. They're gonna tear down a building and build residential. You didn't hear a word about any of those people joining RA. But that's clearly within, the confines of RA. I mean, it's literally close enough to your headquarters. So the question is, right now, there are 5 SSPAs You guys gotta work on.
Four.
Oh, four.
Well, there's 4 this year and 4 next year.
One of them's gonna tear down the rest of the association building. under one
Well,
of their
that's
options.
what they.
I don't, well, yeah.
Oh,
you're right.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that's one of the SSBA.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Anyway.
so we've got, I'm a stickler for time, so you've got 10 minutes left. And I want to be respectful. We usually adjourn on time at 9 o'clock. So what I would like to do is take 2 minutes each to do a wrap up, and we're going to go in reverse order. So Darren, we're going to start with you. You have 2 minutes to wrap up, just to, and you're muted. Oh, there you go.
Sure. I'm sorry, my passion comes out sometimes in some of these topics. So
That's okay.
if I did step on top of anyone, I apologize. Again, I love this community. I'm raising my family here. My passion now is to go make it the best community we can. I have a very simplistic approach to this and to a very complex challenge. And that's like, if you have a Reston zip code, you should be paying a RA fee. You get to use those services. Now, I know that doesn't work because of the 4 to 5 areas that we're talking about that have special, what do they have, their own homeowners, kind of that loophole type of thing. So, what I offer is to go fight that battle. I want to preserve the open spaces. I want to make it safer. I want to have the good traffic. I don't want to have a high density city life in a wonderful, wonderful residential community. And so, I'm in it for the long run, and I hope you guys will consider me. Thank you much.
Thank you, Darren. Appreciate it. Linda.
Wrapping up, I'm here, I'm available, I'm willing to work and support the community in any way I possibly can. So I would imagine I'm going to hear from you, Lynn.
Right now, there's only 5 votes in, so Linda, it can be anyone at this point.
Margaret, quite frankly, you impressed me by your expertise and really depth of knowledge for the representation area that you've done.
Thank you.
I'm so impressed by the forum that we had before. So I wish you and our other nominee all the best of luck.
Thank you, Linda, and best of luck to you too. Okay, we're gonna start Izzy.
Okay, well, thank you so much for hosting this and having all of us, I think all of us are gonna do a great job because I think we're all committed to a vision, which is from good to great. At least that's my motto for Reston Association. Reston Association is an HOA. So I know we talked a lot about county stuff, but at the same time, there's a lot of work to be done. The deed, there's a lot of room there. There's room for amenities. There's aging infrastructure was one of the first things in the community survey that people wanted addressed. So I think we have to keep an eye on that. One of the things that I've been telling folks is I want to bring more people into Reston Association to get engaged and participate. And I'm like, I hit the pavement. And I've been telling everybody, like, win or lose, like, you need to start showing up to board meetings. You need to start participating in committees because there's such a wealth of expertise in the community that we're just not tapping into. And with that, I will say also that there needs to be, we didn't answer your question that we had at the RA board meeting, but there needs to be a liaison to community organizations, not just Friends of Reston and the Arts of Reston, but like we need to engage with all of our partners because all of these issues do connect. But at the end of the day, the HOA priorities also need to be covered.
Joel.
Thank you very much for having us. One thing we learned from the casino fight is when we come together, when we have a common goal, we do very well. So you saw a little bit of my passion come out as well, and Darren's passion, and everybody's passionate about this place here that we call home. And by the way, this is home for us. We're not moving to Florida or North Carolina. We're staying
Yeah,
here. We're gonna
us
stay.
too.
This is it. This is it. So when you see me kind of jump at you or anything, it's the passion. As a soccer player, it's what's on the field. It stays on the field.
Not a problem.
We're all in this together. I think what all I'm saying is, just to pick up on what Izzy just commented. Yes, there are these 3,000 units they're not paying. They went through that. We can get them on the profits now. We can work the deed. We've got the 5 SSPAs that you mentioned. We went to the meetings. We've got this land use committee, like it or not, paying attention to what's going on with these. And we want to make sure that they become part of RA, they pay their dues. But you know what? We have to come together. And the best way to do that is for us to collaborate, partner, and raise our voice, show our power, project some dominance here. I think that's the thing that's been missing from RA. Whether we raise our voice or kind of wave our hand and so on, if we do it together, we will do very well. We will do very well. I think that's very
Great, thank you. Thank you. And finally, Margaret.
So I'll be honest with you, based on the feedback in the room, most of you aren't gonna like what I have to say, and that's okay. When dealing with anything with RA, we need to have a realistic approach. We have to recognize that when you are paying for 30 some tennis courts and 15 pools and 4 lakes and what, 5 hundreds of miles of trails,
55,
58.
58. 58.
it's hundreds of miles. They're everywhere. But the reality is those things do cost money. And unfortunately, whether anyone likes it or not in Reston or Fairfax County or Virginia, prices went up. And oddly enough, for some reason, Reston Association was not immune to that. I don't know why, but for some reason, RA didn't get the magic bullet of, oh, no, you guys, you keep paying what you've been paying. Didn't work like that. So, like it or not, fees for RA went up. I'm not talking about homeowner fees, I'm talking about the fees that RA pays to make sure that you have chlorine in 15 pools, to make sure that you have sand and salt for the trails, okay? All of those costs went up. In reality, the last 2 years, RA has artificially lowered the assessment for homeowners. Artificially lowered the assessment the last 2 years. Had the assessment been a realistic assessment last year, it would have been $807 a home. That is a realistic, actual cost to the bone, what it would have cost per home. Had we had that realistic, your fees would have gone up $10 this year. That's it, $10. However, because RA had kept dues artificially low for 2 years, it looked like it was a huge jump. You cannot maintain artificially low homeowners fees without ultimately running out of money or having to cut amenities, refurbishments, replacements, any of that stuff. So I highly recommend anyone in Reston Association to reach out, to look at the financials, to understand what the budget actually looks like. Because I promise you, there's a lot of conversation that happens about it. There's a lot of people looking at it. You know, thankfully we have a CFO, hopefully coming on board soon, who will also be able to assist with these things. The other piece is you have a 9-member board. 9 people have to have these conversations, and at least 5 of them have to come to an agreement. The same goes with the Fairfax County Board. We can want many, many things from Supervisor Alcorn, and Supervisor Alcorn can actually be on our side. But if the rest of the Fairfax County Board isn't, if they've got, I don't know, donations coming in from certain organizations, then, you know, they're going to vote in line with what they think best. I recognize that we want a lot of these things done. I recognize now is a good time to get them done. And I know Supervisor Alcorn would like to have these conversations. I think there is a way to do it, and it is not going in with a strong fist and a bullying voice, period.
Here, here. Here, here.
I'd like to meet something Julie Bitzer and Sarah McHugh have put in the chat.
Okay,
Julie says community survey that was just done, members still said they wanted all 15 pools maintained and that they valued trails. On the other hand, Sarah McHugh says be creative in reducing costs and that it's not normal for a community to have 15 pools. The cost to replace and refurbish them is astronomical. So
Absolutely.
that is, but for it's not normal to be a community to have 15 pools. That was how Reston was designed. It's a thing. You try to take away one of its pools and it doesn't work so well. But
thank you, Connie. I did not see the chat.
It's
Since
hard-
you
it's hard to
mentioned,
do
since
both,
you,
that's why.
since you mentioned Julie, I do want to say that that was the last time that we had a representative from RA that
Come to our
served
meeting.
as a liaison.
Mm.
It was Julie Bitzer. So Julie, thank you for that. Jerry,
Just one
Yeah.
comment.
yes.
Reading all your goals. Some of you talked about working directly with the staff of the Reston Association. I hope you meant when you said that you would work with the CEO of the Reston Association. Because sometimes in the past, the RA board members have directed certain staff to do certain things, not through the CEO, and the CEO is saying to do one thing and setting goals and objectives. It's not the RA's board to directly task the staff to do certain things. It's the CEO's responsibility to do
I
that.
will
So,
admit to you that some of us understand.
Well, and I will say, everything I do with staff is with the approval of the CEO.
okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're over 1 minute. Connie, would you be okay if we defer the Hunt Club agenda item for
Oh,
our
absolutely.
meeting?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so we will, I'm gonna call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. We're adjourned.
It was
Yeah.
it was nice to get to know
Dennis.
everybody.
Yeah.
I'm
You
excited.
seconded it.
Oh, okay.
You brought it back. The date for the next meeting, let's see, what is, let's see.
April.
I want to thank you, Darren and Linda. Thank you so much for joining. We really appreciated, and we're sorry that you weren't able to be here in person, but good luck and we'll be in touch.
Thank you, everyone. I hope you all have a nice evening. Take care, everyone.
You too.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely.